Hey, what's going on, guys? Know it's been a few weeks, but I just needed to hop on here and just do a little bit of talking today. And my question for today, or the thought that's on my mind today, is what is it that makes us struggle? And that goes for each and every one of us. We are all dealing with something at one point or another in our lives. For some, it could be life circumstances. I think that's what it is for a lot of us. Others, it could be just personal issues, things that are unresolved in our lives. And, we all deal with those things. I've dealt with those things. I've dealt with unresolved issues in my life. And sometimes I still would deal with unresolved issues depending on what it is that actually comes up. And so I had made a post a few days ago now, and on that post I kind of talked about what is it that makes Christians struggle, at least in my experience. And Christians have struggles too. We have things we deal with. We have junk in our lives, hurts, disappointments, letdowns. We have voids in our lives that Jesus is consistently trying to help us with, and that's a big part of our trials and our tests, is that Jesus is trying to expose what needs to be exposed. He's trying to expose it to us so that way we can acknowledge it, because a lot of times we just overlook it, or we bury it with stuff. We bury it with relationships. We drink it away. We use drugs to dampen, or to what's another word I'm trying to use? Pretty much to forget about the stuff that we're dealing with. I mean, to be honest, that's a lot of why we do the stuff we do. That's why we drink. That's why we smoke. That's why we do pills. That's why we do meth and all these things, is because we're dealing with stresses that seem insurmountable, that seem like we're not going to make it through. And we're looking for an escape, even if it's just a temporary escape. But unfortunately, and I know for myself, by experience with some things, that those outlets become bad habits a lot of times, and those outlets aren't productive. A lot of outlets aren't productive. There are outlets that are productive. People go to the gym, people go for walks, people take up a new craft, a hobby, whatever, and those can be pretty productive in a lot of ways. But the drinking, the drug usage, it's all just band-aids on our hurts, on our scars. Or they're not even scars yet, they're open wounds, to be honest with ourselves. And so we deal with those things. Now, I myself, I've had to deal with those things. Being married has actually caused me to face a lot of junk, a lot of hurts, a lot of holes, a lot of voids. And man, let my wife tell you. I mean, I don't know what she would tell you, but I'm sure if she knew I was okay with it, she would tell you about some hard times where I've had to face myself. I've had to face my ugliness. I've had to face some places where I was lacking pretty badly as a father, pretty badly as a husband. And if I could tell you, if you're one of these people where you feel like you're lacking in something, and something that should seem so basic, let me tell you, if you have a void, somebody that's missing in your life that should have been in your life, like a father or a mother, or if they're there but they're not And, not to make people sound too bad, but if they're there and they're not involved, then that can be just as bad. And sometimes that could be worse, because that speaks volumes. That speaks tons about perhaps what they feel. But if I can give you a different perspective, sometimes they're dealing with the same junk we're dealing with. Sometimes they don't know how to be a good father. Sometimes they don't know how to be a good mother. And so sometimes it's unfortunately easier to bow out. And that sucks, because we are the ones that suffer along with them. If you are a parent like that, it sucks. It sucks for us, the kids. And then there's some, life is life. The world is the world. And sometimes things happen in our lives that, things happen. A girl gets pregnant. The dad, maybe it was just a one night thing, or, our life is rough. Our world is rough. Our society is rough. And let me tell you, God did not intend for it to be like this. He absolutely did not intend for it to be like this. And that's why I'm here today, because as I have gotten closer to God through Jesus Christ, He has helped me to understand that. But He's also helped me to remember that there are people that are hurting out in this world, just like I was. When we just bow out, we just walk away, we are creating another broken, lacking life. And each individual handles it differently. We can't take how we handle issues and situations and say, well, I handled it this way, they should be okay too. They're not you, bro. They're not you, sis. I'm me, you're you, they're them. Your kids are your kids. And if we pay close attention, our kids are totally individuals. They have their own personality. They have their own struggles. They have their own strengths. Don't forget to capitalize on the strengths. Don't forget to encourage the strengths. Because we struggle with who we are. We struggle with our situations. We struggle. Perhaps we're trying to provide for our families and we're struggling. Perhaps we're struggling with self-identity and we're looking at all the wrong people. They look like all the right people. They are successful. They have the money. They have the audience. But off stage, in the dark, they're probably pretty lonely, because they probably have very few real friends. We could just look at people that have passed off the scene. We look at Robin Williams. He was somebody I grew up watching. Oh man, one of his movies was Hook. That was one of the movies I can remember watching of him. And the original, or at least in my mind, the original Disney Aladdin with him playing Genie, he brought laughter, happiness to so many people. And at the end of his life, he was lonely. He was depressed. So that goes to show you, take account. It looks good on the surface, but underneath, what is it really like? And so perhaps we're doing okay on the surface. I could tell you as somebody that it's Some people do good with looking okay on the surface, and underneath they're screaming out, crying. Some people don't do so good with holding it together on the surface, and that would be this guy. I don't do so good. I can sometimes wear my heart on my sleeve. Sometimes that's an okay thing, sometimes it's not. I don't try to bring people down though with my junk. I just, life is rough. It's a struggle. But it's not meant to be that way. I can remember back in 2009, I think I was at the lowest point in my life I had ever been in. I've been without food in my life. I've been without shelter in my life. I've been beaten, abused in more ways than one. I know what it likes to feel like nobody understands you, nobody cares, and these are just feelings. Not that it's true. Maybe for some it is. That nobody cares, nobody loves you. I know plenty of people that have grown up in the foster system and that foster kids, and that's exactly how they feel. But like I said, I know what it means to be abused in more ways than one. In many ways that many in my family did not know about until just a couple years ago. So you got to be careful. Parents, be careful. Sometimes, unfortunately, even with those closest to you. But talk to your kids. Listen to your kids. Take what your kids have to say. Don't dismiss it. Because that is one of the most heartbreaking things, is to go to your parent or to open up to your parent about something that is bugging you, that has happened, and we just get brushed off. Listen to your kids. And know your kids. Know, are they prone to exaggeration? Are they prone to lying? But even if they are, listen, watch their body language, watch how their behavior changes, for the good or for the worse. Back in 2009, when I was at my lowest, Jesus Christ he had been intervening. When I look back over my past, this is when he became very prominent. I was at one of my emotional lowest points in my life. There was another time where I was pretty emotionally low, to where I wanted to jump over the side of a ship that I was on while I was in the military. The only thing that really kept me was, did I really want to live, or did I want to die? And the thought of living was a bit more entertaining than the thought of dying. But you have to find a why. But in 2009, Jesus Christ, through various family members and friends, he stepped in the forefront of my life. He began to, through my family and friends, speak things into my life, speak ideas, bring different points of view, bring purpose. Then I had these supernatural experiences in the church that I ended up at. I don't believe what I believe just because of it sounds good and I'm only looking for hope and direction, but because Jesus Christ cares enough to reach out to each and every one of us in our struggles. But you have to be paying attention. You have to pay attention to the people that are in your life. You have to listen to what they're saying. Pay attention to your dreams. Jesus will deal with you in your dreams. Pay attention to your daydreams sometimes. Pay attention to what you're listening to. He could be trying to get your attention because you're struggling and he's trying to help you. Sometimes, many times, we get depressed, we struggle. But Jesus Christ is there to help, and we have to grab hold of the avenues, of the tools, of the pathways, of some lifestyle avenues. There are things that we can do to connect with him, and he'll connect with us. He'll bring joy to our lives, which is different, totally different from happiness. Joy is that underlying, if you've ever had something good go on in your life, or you've ever had that moment to where you're like, man, I do add something to life, and it just kind of underlies the surface. Whereas happiness can be very situational. I could be happy today because there's some good news, but tomorrow I might hear some devastating news. But because of my relationship, not because of religion, but because of my relationship, because of God's supernatural spirit and presence within my life, I can have joy, because He is the source of joy just as much as the source of the light in a light bulb is the electricity. It flows through the filament or the LED. It flows through the filament and it gives off light. So when Jesus Christ is in our lives, in spite of the situations, in spite of the circumstances, we can have joy. If I can encourage you, use the avenues given to you. Turn back to Him if you need to turn away from the lifestyle choices, the things in our lives that divide us from Him, that cause us to be at odds, cause our lifestyle to be at odds. It's not that He's trying to be at odds with us, but there are things in our lives that His presence, His nature can't coexist with. It can't be in the same place as whatever it is. Pray, talk to Him. Prayer is simply talking to Him. I express my hurts, I express my pains, I even expose the things that I hate seeing about myself, the things that I struggle with when I'm not close to Him. And it's different for everybody. Some people it's lying and deception. For others, it's wrong desires, whatever those may be. Perhaps they're wrong sexual desires. Perhaps they're wrong, perhaps they're aggressive desires. Don't be afraid. That was His whole point in His coming to our world and giving up His life to pay the price that we would pay for ourselves if we stood behind or before His divine nature without our error, our rebellion, our sin uncovered by His pure and upright life, which we partake of when we're baptized in His name. That's what the disciples did. His disciples baptized in Jesus' name. Peter, the chief apostle, if I can put it that way, Peter said that is for the forgiveness and removal of our rebellion, of our sin, of our error. So turn. That's what I had to do. I had to turn. I had to give up all the things that were hindering me. I had to give up my indecent videos that I used to watch. That's such a horrible thing to hear myself say. But I did. I used to watch some stuff that most people would think is normal. But that can be very hurtful to a relationship, because then I'm desiring something or someone more than my spouse. It's hurtful to trust, because let the wrong person come around and they look like something I'm watching, and that's where my desire is. It messes up the dynamics of a relationship. And then it messes up the dynamic of what our Creator originally intended. He intended a man and a woman to come together in marriage, which was a reflection of His relationship to mankind as a whole. He is faithful to us. He seeks to intervene in our lives. He seeks to protect. He seeks to provide. He seeks to be a friend that is closer than anybody else. And a decent woman will tell you is that they want a close, trusting, solid relationship, friendship with their spouse. That's what life was meant to be. We sometimes as men have such a hard time with that. That's because we're flawed. All of us, men, women, we're all flawed. Our world is flawed. And it's because of what happened in the beginning of creation. Perhaps that's a story for another time. But if you're struggling, it's normal. It's normal to struggle, because we have a broken world. We have a broken society. We have broken societies. And there's a part of us that is missing. There's a part of us that is lacking. But Jesus Christ can and will help you if you will allow him to. Will you allow him to help you? If so, and you need some help and guidance, there's the comment section. If not, you can always click off the video, but you can always come back if you would like help. He has helped me. He has helped me for going on 12 years now. Thank you, Lord. And he continues to help me, even when I still struggle, even when I stumble, even when I trip up, even when I mess up. And thankfully, I have a very prayerful and gracious wife that even if it frustrates her that I'm struggling because I'm exhibiting some old habits, she's gracious and she's patient and she's loving, and vice versa. When she's struggling and having things, thankfully, she can say that I love her as Jesus loves the church. And that is my number one goal when it comes to my wife and when it comes to my kids, is that as I get to know Jesus through my relationship, not through religion, that he will help me to love them and to love those around me with the love that he loves, which is unconditional, but he does have boundaries, just as much as you and I have boundaries, or at least we should, because I wouldn't want anybody to take advantage of me, and I wouldn't want anybody to take advantage of you, because that's not right. But we should be working for one another's benefit. So, until the next time, may God bless you, protect you, and keep you. Pray, ask for his intervention, and ask for him to reveal himself to you. God bless you.